Hello everyone and welcome to Azam Sharp Weekly. I'm recording this on my refurbished iMac 27-inch, so let me know if the font size and everything is good. I am using a 24 font size, so hopefully that will be big enough, but if it's not, then let me know and I can definitely change it. Okay, so what we're learning is about middlewares, how we can set up middleware when we are building our SwiftUI application with a Redux flow. So right now you can see that we have a particular store and you need a reducer and you have a state, but you don't really have any middleware. And in the end, middleware is just a function. It's literally a function that you will call and it will basically give you access. It's going to take in a stored state, an action, and it can return you another action. So let's first go ahead and create the definition of a middleware. So right at the top, I'm going to go ahead and create a type alias. So type alias. And I'm just going to call this middleware. It is going to take in a stored state, which will be of type Redux state. And we're going to pass in the stored state. And we're going to pass in the action. And we're going to pass in escaping dispatcher. Now, what exactly is this dispatcher, and the whole thing, the whole closure is not really going to return anything. So the middleware over here, we have provided a type alias definition. We're going to pass in the stored state or the state. We're going to pass in the action and a dispatcher, which itself is a closure which takes an action but returns nothing. So we can even go over here and create that. So type alias, and I'm just going to call it dispatcher equals to action, and it is going to return nothing. Okay? All right, so we have created a definition of middleware. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are using this middleware when we are creating a store. And middleware can be used for many different purposes. I think one of the purposes can be to fetch items from an API call and then give it or dispatching an action and giving it to the reducer, which updates the global state. So if you want to perform some asynchronous action, the middleware might be the best place to do that. So I'm going to go over here in the actual store definition. And I'm going to go ahead and say middlewares. And I'm going to call this middlewares because middleware can be one, but it can be many different things. I mean, you can be passing in one middleware can be incrementing the value. One middleware can be simply logging the stuff. One middleware will be fetching the movies. So it can be many different things. And over here in the constructor, I'm going to make sure that we have middlewares and we are going to use a type alias, so the one that we just created, which is going to take the stored state. There we go. And we're going to make sure that it is initialized to an empty array. So if you don't really pass in the middlewares, it's not really going to be initialize anything. But if you do pass in, we're going to set the property to middlewares. Okay? Great. So now the question is, okay, if you have passed the middlewares, what should we do next? I mean, how do we invoke the middlewares? Well, whenever we are dispatching the action, we can go ahead and perform or go through all the middlewares. So middlewares.forEach. And when we're going through the middleware, we can actually call the middleware. So middleware in, and we can call middleware as a function. So I'm just going to pass in the state, I'm going to pass in the action, and pass the dispatch. So this means that this particular middleware or all the middlewares will be dispatched, and based on the action, they will fetch something or they will do something. Now we don't really have any middleware, so I can go ahead and create a middleware, and this will be a very simple middleware. So I'm just going to go on the top and create a separate middleware. I will call it function, and I will call it log middleware. So this particular middleware which is a function, the only job of this middleware is to simply print log middleware, that something has been logged. And this will be an app state. And now we can return something. So in this middleware, or to comply with the middleware definition, we have to return something that is stored state, action, and a dispatcher. So again, I'm going to go over here and say state and action, and I'm going to go ahead and dispatch, meaning returning dispatch. The middleware itself is not really going to do anything. I'm just going to say log middleware. But this is our simplest middleware, which is going to get fired every single time any kind of action occurs. Because inside the middleware, you can see that we are not really making a check that, oh, you should only log when the action is something like that. But we are simply logging the middleware or printing or using the middleware whenever the middleware is actually called. Now, right now, if you run this, it's not going to do anything because we still haven't plugged in the middleware. So let's go to the Hello Redux app. And when we are creating our store, we can go ahead and pass in middlewares as an array. And over here, we can simply pass in the log middleware. All right. Great. And that is pretty much what you will need to be doing when we are having a middleware. Now let's go ahead and run our app. I'm going to go to the content view and let's check out the canvas. Let's resume the canvas. Now this particular middleware is just going to fire every single time. So it doesn't really matter which button. And I'm going to click on there we go. And you can see right at the bottom, we have this being displayed. And it's kind of small, but you can still see the log middleware is actually working correctly. And if I decrement, the middleware is still getting fired. All right. Okay, so this is the middleware, which sits in between the action and the reducer. So when an action is dispatched, before it reaches the reducer, it goes through the middleware, and it is at that point that you can perform an asynchronous request. You can do whatever you want in the middleware. And what we ended up doing in the middleware is we ended up with simply logging the information. All right. So that's it. This was middleware when using Redux Design Pattern in SwiftUI. If you want to support my work, then the best way would be go to patreon.com/AzamSharp and become a patron. You can sign up for the silver tier or the gold tier. And for each of these tiers, we have different benefits. You are going to get access to high quality videos, and it will be ad free. So there will be no advertisements in the videos. And I post regular videos on or for my patrons. So if you want to support my channel, then this will be the best way to do it. Thank you so much. And also check out the YouTube description. I have a huge list of courses that you can buy or you can purchase. Thank you so much for your continuous support.